Very good. Padlet. Everybody used Padlet before?
Yes.
Yes, you've used Padlet before? What do you think of Padlet? Is it good?
Yeah, it's a nice platform.
How much of Padlet have you used so far? Do you use with your students regularly? What I actually do, currently we are in the process of getting our English language teachers to be at a certain level of proficiency in Malaysia. So teachers are trained to upskill their proficiency. So the medium that we use with our teachers is using this platform. Do you know what this is? Quiz it? Not really. Starts with an O. This is open learning. Have you heard of open learning before?
Yeah.
Open learning is another learning management system, LMS, which is also very useful for you to park a lot of your modules, activities, and your participants will be interacting with these activities that you have parked here on this module, on this tool. Okay, so far Padlet is alright, Newport is alright. Next. I think the symbol itself gives you an idea what it means, of the name. Peer Deck. Congratulations, thank you. Alright, Peer Deck is also another one, alright, that is available for teachers and educators to use with your target learners. Okay? How about this one? The shape will tell you roughly what the name is. Thank you. Looks like a puzzle, isn't it? Alright? This is Edpuzzle. EDPUZZLEE. Edpuzzle. Alright? This tool is also useful if you would like to use it with your students in the classroom. You want to use a lot of videos. This would be the best tool to use. Okay? This one, I think many would know this. What is it? Quizzes, yes. You use a lot of quizzes?
Yeah.
Do you use quizzes with your students? Yes, very good. There's another one that is somewhat like quizzes. Who knows? It starts with a K. Kahoot. Alright, it's a game-like tool that you can use your learners and they respond interactively online. Yeah? Okay, the second last one. I think this is globally established tool. Yeah, Google Classroom. Malaysia use this as our official platform. Most of our materials for all the English language teachers, not just teachers, but not just English, but also across all subject matters, all their materials are parked under Google. Okay, and most of our materials are developed under Google Classroom as well. It's more friendly because you can do classes, yeah, with a group of learners. And the final one. What do you think this is? What is it? Not ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT is the latest one, yes. But this one is not ChatGPT. What do you think this is? The last one. It looks similar to quizzes, but it's not quizzes. Any wild guess? No idea. Okay. This is Genially. Yes, Genially. Now, Genially is more towards helping you to prepare interesting PowerPoint or interesting presentations. All right. The features is somewhat like Google Slides, but it's more I would say, more engaging, more interesting, they have more features to offer. All right, so these are some of the tools that we have made available, and this is what I would call tech ed tools. This is not the only one, but these are some of the tech ed tools. An alternative or a varied approach to our teachers in conducting teaching and learning within the classroom context. Okay, so basically the center of my discussion or the center of my presentation will be highlighting what this tool is able to do, and hopefully from this session you will be able to bring it back with you and possibly try it out on your own and see if it is workable within your classroom context. Now, may I just see a show of hands of how many of you have Wi-Fi access in school? Oh, quite a number, which is good. All right, so that means you do have access to tools, and you will be able to use tools within a classroom. Now, some of these tools does require internet connection to make it workable. But there are also tools in which you can also work offline. Okay? So what you need to do is more or less venture, explore what will be best that you can use within your constraints, and also be able to benefit your learners. Yeah? Okay, so coming to my title, we'll be looking at 4 main aspects. All right? First, we're going to look at what the tools are able to provide us with. Some of you 10 minutes gone, that leaves you another 30 minutes if you're coming from a 40 minutes classroom. How much time actual teaching will take place? Actual teaching. Okay, that's minus the closure, where you want to get feedback from your students, you want to see whether they understand. That takes away another 10 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 10, 10, 20, that leaves you with only 20 minutes of, hopefully, actual teaching. Lesser than that sometimes. I can relate with that. 20 minutes teaching. Within that 20 minutes, you need to do what? You need to impart knowledge. You need to impart content, right? You need to teach some language content to your students. But at the same time, you need to have activities.
Yeah.
And the activities has to be student-centered. Because if not student-centered, then how are you able to get them to practice the language? Now, if you're having about 40 students in a classroom, how much time do you have for individual students? How much?
No time.
Half a minute? If you're lucky, if you're able to reach every single learner in your classroom?
No, it is not.
How many hours of English do you have in a week? 6 hours. You have English every day? Every day? Every day is 1 hour. 45 minutes. Every day is 45 minutes.
Hello.
Okay. So, as a teacher, you need to look out for tools, right? You need to get help. Now, if you're the sole provider of that subject matter in a classroom, the idea of getting to reach each and every one in your classroom will be possible and also towards an impossible opportunity. So you need to look at what are other means if I'm not able to reach all in one of my lessons, all of my lessons, at least in one. Because without that interference, without that intervention with the teacher on the students, Now, how much language learning can there be? Does your student or do your students speak English outside their English language classroom?
Only inside the class.
They don't even speak in your classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside the classroom, do they have the opportunity to speak the language? No? Most of the time they will resort to their mother tongue or the language that they are more comfortable with. Yeah? Oh. Then how do you expect your learners to speak and acquire the language? It shouldn't be teacher talk. It's supposed to be pupil talk, student talk. That is why when I started the session, I mentioned about having the student as the center. Having the student as the center for learning. Now, in this era, in this context, the trend now is teachers play the role of a facilitator. We need to move away a little bit to the idea that we are now the sole provider of the language. Now, most of our students are even not extensively, but have some kind of exposure to mobile, correct? Do they have access to mobile? Okay, when you have mobile, do you have access to internet?
Of course.
At some point, to some degree, they will have access to internet. They have access to media? Yeah? Possibly, I'm not sure, but in Malaysia it seems like the television is no longer popular. Are students now still watching television? Or they rather be on the internet? You have to tell me, your students. For Malaysia, they rather be on the net rather than on the television. Because internet is faster in providing them all the necessary information. And at some point, some of the students will come into class and question the teacher. Yesterday, I watched something on the net. Can you please clarify why is that so? Now, these are the kind of learners that we have now in the generation. So teachers have to be well equipped with the necessary tools in order to ensure that they function effectively within the teaching and learning context. So let's look at the tool. All right. Now, what does the TED tools offer? First, it is something that you can use in the education context, and most importantly, it actually encompasses a wide range of resources. Now, when we talk about tech tools, it can be a tool for learning. Okay, it can also just be a tool for imparting knowledge. Now, how many of you here have or still use PowerPoint in the teaching and learning? The one I'm doing now, right? I'll just put everything, put it on the internet. But I did something different just now. How did I start off my session? I did a question and answer. What I do? I show you symbols, right? I get the audience to engage, interact. That means I am not the only sole provider of knowledge here. When I pose you questions for you to respond to, I get to understand better on your context of teaching and learning. And how does these tools that we have within the education context is able to accommodate or able to support you in your role as a teacher in a classroom. Okay, now we have a lot of tools made available. I think MCO taught us a lot, correct? Were you taught during MCO what to use? Did MCO tell you during MCO period, do you have someone telling you, oh, you need to use Google Classroom, you need to use quizzes, you need to use this? Did anybody impart that, tell you that? Or you have to find out your own during MCO? How do you teach during the pandemic? during the when you are not allowed to attend school, everybody was confined at home. How did you reach your students?
Virtually.
Doing? Messenger,
Zoom. Google Classroom.
Teams, okay. Do you use anything else to support that? When you are doing Zoom, did you show anything?
Yeah, we use PowerPoint.
You use PowerPoint, pictures, videos, yeah, okay, and that's it. You need to look out for tools, right? You need to get help. Now, if you're the sole provider of that subject matter in a classroom, the idea of getting to reach each and every one in your classroom will be possible and also towards an impossible opportunity. So you need to look at what are other means if I'm not able to reach all in one of my lessons, all of my lessons, at least in one. Because without that interference, without that intervention with the teacher on the students, now how much language learning can there be? Does your student or do your students speak English outside their English language classroom? They don't even speak in your classroom. Okay. Outside the classroom, do they have the opportunity to speak the language? No? Most of the time they will resort to their mother tongue or the language that they are more comfortable with. Yeah? Oh. Then how do you expect your learners to speak and acquire the language? It shouldn't be teacher talk. It's supposed to be pupil talk, student talk. That is why when I started the session, I mentioned about having the student as the center. Having the student as the center for learning. Now, in this era, in this context, the trend now is teachers play the role of a facilitator. We need to move away a little bit to the idea that we are now the sole provider of the language. Now, most of our students are even not extensively, but have some kind of exposure to mobile, correct? Do they have access to mobile? Okay, when you have mobile, do you have access to internet?
Of course.
At some point, to some degree, they will have access to internet. They have access to media? Yeah? Possibly, I'm not sure, but in Malaysia it seems like the television is no longer popular. Are students now still watching television? Or they rather be on the internet? You have to tell me, your students. For Malaysia, they rather be on the net rather than on the television. Because internet is faster in providing them all the necessary information. And at some point, some of the students will come into class and question the teacher. Yesterday, I watched something on the net. Can you please clarify why is that so? Now, these are the kind of learners that we have now in the generation. So teachers have to be well equipped with the necessary tools in order to ensure that they function effectively within the teaching and learning context. So let's look at the tool. All right. Now, what does the TechEd tools offer? First, it is something that you can use in the education context, and most importantly, it actually encompasses a wide range of resources. Now, when we talk about TechEd tools, it can be a tool for learning. Okay, it can also just be a tool for imparting knowledge. Now, how many of you here have or still use PowerPoint in the teaching and learning? The one I'm doing now, right? I'll just put everything, put it on the internet. But I did something different just now. How did I start off my session? I did a question and answer. What I do, I show you symbols, right? I get the audience to engage, interact. That means I am not the only sole provider of knowledge here. When I pose you questions for you to respond to, I get to understand better on your context of teaching and learning. And how does these tools that we have within the education context is able to accommodate or able to support you in your role as a teacher in a classroom. Okay, now we have a lot of tools made available. I think MCO taught us a lot, correct? Were you taught during MCO what to use? Did MCO tell you during MCO period, do you have someone telling you, oh, you need to use Google Classroom, you need to use quizzes, you need to use this? Did anybody impart that, tell you that? Or you have to find out your own during MCO? How do you teach during the pandemic, during the when you are not allowed to attend school, everybody was confined at home? How did you reach your students?
Virtually.
Doing? You use Messenger,
Zoom, Google Classroom.
Teams, okay. Do you use anything else to support that? When you are doing Zoom, did you show anything?
Yeah, we use PowerPoint.
You use PowerPoint, pictures, videos, yeah. Okay. And that's it. Some are new.
But we
Some you explored yourself, right? Some were told by friends, hey, I actually use this, try out, right? This is exploration. You explore, look at what is available and how you can reach your students. Okay, so this is what tech tools does. So why do we need tech tools then? First and foremost, we want to enhance learning and engagement. Now, I recall you mentioned just now when you were doing during pandemic, you had Zoom, you had PowerPoint. You share your PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
And again, teacher talk. Did you get your students to respond? Were their cameras on?
Yeah.
Or their cameras was off?
Yeah,
Most of the time off.
most of the time.
So at the end of the day, you are the only one talking. You know your students are there? I can relate because I have teachers doing that as well. You understand? Yeah. You okay? That's a very common one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you have that is online, but when you're on stage or in the classroom, are you still able to get that with your students? Not just having you as a tool, but you can have technological tools to assist you. Okay? For example, quizzes. How many of you use quizzes with your students? Okay, a handful, I can see. When do you use quizzes?
While teaching grammar.
At the beginning of the class? In the middle of the class? Every Friday. May I know the reason behind that, sir? Why every Friday? Again, sorry.
Some exam work is done on Friday, each and every Friday.
It is an activity done on every Friday. So what's happening every quizzes. So one of the activities on Friday is quizzes. Okay. Your quizzes is on what? Grammar?
Yeah, most of the time.
Okay. So it goes across all subjects. Okay. Anybody else uses quizzes in their classroom? Okay. For vocabulary, okay, you use quizzes for vocabulary.
Spelling contest.
Okay, spelling contest, assembly. You mentioned during assembly, very good. That means you're using it outside the classroom. Correct? Good. Who else use quizzes?
To check out their comprehension level.
To check out their comprehension. So it's not generally just for one particular content of language. You can go across grammar, right up to writing. Can you do quizzes for writing?
Writing? Yeah.
Yes? You can? But not the higher order writing skills.
Yeah.
The lower order writing skills. Alright? For example, knowing what kind of sentence to fit into a paragraph. For example, what would be the best main idea in the first sentence of a paragraph? Identifying relevant examples within the paragraph to support the main idea provided. Can you do quizzes for that? Yes. These are simple tools that you can get your students going. With that tool, can you reach every single student? Yes. Will every single student be able to do it on their own?
No.
Why not?
Why not? It is done and it is possible. Just to get a better understanding of the context. Are students allowed to bring handphones to school? No, they're not allowed to bring mobile to school. Okay. So if when you have internet, when will you be using tools like this in your teaching and learning? Do you need to bring them into a computer lab?
Yeah.
Yes.
Put it again. You have computer in every classroom. You're fortunate.
Yeah.
Others? You have smartphones. That means students are allowed to bring smartphones to school. Smart books. Okay, you have smart books. Alright. Other classroom contacts? How would you actually use technology? How are you able to use technology with your students? Depending on the conditions or context of your classroom. Smart books, we have computers available in the classroom.
No.
Teacher being the sole technology provider? Is that still possible? Can you do quizzes with the teacher there and students respond? Can?
Yeah.
As a whole class approach? Yeah?
Yeah,
You
sometimes.
can also do quizzes the same way too. Kahoot the same way too. Okay, that is possible. But if you are able to get every student a device, then it is better because you will see their response on the screen. Okay? So this is what I mean by enhancing learning and engagement. That means these students that we have in a classroom will have to respond to the teaching. Not just nodding, yes, I understand, but they are supposed to respond to whatever that you are imparting or sharing, or how can I say this? Not just teaching, but you want them to be connected to what you have to deliver to your students. Okay? Next, it is skill development. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
When you integrate technology in your classroom, what other skills do you actually get your students good at?
Classes started by chance, first and foremost.
They started with?
Classes started by chance, first and foremost.
Okay, by chance.
By chance.
Okay? Alright. Is handling a device a skill? Is handling this a skill? Yes? Of course?
Of course.
So if you are allowing your students to either handle a device like this or a computer, what skill is involved there?
Using technology.
One is technical, the other one is
Meant
problem solving.
problem solving.
Do you realize that?
Yeah.
Because, for example, a simple one. You want to get here to, what's the nearest? Labi Mall,
Love it.
right? Okay, for me who's not been here before, I don't know the way. Problem solving? It's a problem?
Yeah.
Because I don't know the way, right?
Yes.
So I need to find out how do I get there.
Yeah.
So I need to look for
Google Map.
alternatives. I can get someone from the crowd say, okay, can you please show me how to go? And then the person will say, you go first, you go straight, then you go right, then you go left, and then you go straight. By the end of the day, I will get where I am supposed to be. All right? Okay. So I rely on this device. How is it problem solving?
They can solve their
First, to find the right apps. First is to find the right tool in order to address your problem. The problem is very simple. I just want to go to Labimon. Okay? So, but I need to know what tool will be best. Then, I need to know how to click or where to find the direction, right? When you go to Google, for example, there's a lot of small icons, correct? You need to understand what each of these icons is. No wording, correct? It's all about symbols. Symbols. But symbols, the association with meaning as well. So you start clicking and then you want to know which one is the right one. And from there, when you are able to see the route to Labimol, you then need to have navigation skills. You need to know your left and your right. Isn't that language, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. Isn't that teaching your students how to understand language in order to overcome a problem? Yes. And is it relevant to the current trend? In which they use this device? Some of them have this on their own, right? They have their own device. So these are things that we need to also look into. It's not just for language. When you talk about language, it has to be English all the time. English can come in a form of print. English can also come in a form of symbols. Just as how I started the session with you. I started with symbols. Okay? Next, what does it do? It increases digital literacy. Do we need that?
Yeah, of course.
Do we need that?
Yeah.
We can we say no to digital literacy?
No.
You can't. You're already in that era. You cannot reject what is already a trend now. When you reject what is already a trend now, you will be left. We want to move forward. And in order to move forward, we must equip our students with the right skills to move forward with the current trend. Okay? All right, global connectivity. Now, what does technology tools do too as well? Does it give you access to knowledge just within the confine of the classroom?
No.
Or just within the confine of the province? Or just within the confine of the country? It takes you beyond. For example, I take Edpuzzle as an example. Now, Edpuzzle is a tool whereby you will be able to use videos, ready-made videos, and you edit and trim it for teaching and learning purposes. Let's say you find an interesting video about, give me something, a topic that you like to know about. Any topic?
Engaging learners with technology.
Okay, engaging learners with technology. Let's say you want to talk about how technology benefit you as a learner, all right? And you want to show them a video on how. Now, when you talk about a video, it does not have to be just talking. No, video doesn't mean talk from the first second right up to the last second of the video. No, it comes with a lot of images. It comes a lot with gestures, in which this is very crucial to get our learners engaged, to get them interested. Now, when our learners are always only listening to us, they lose you at some point of the lesson. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
They lose you at some point of lesson. I'm not just talking about learners. I'm also talking about participants, course participants. If you're not able to engage them to what you're talking about, you lose them. At some point, they'll stop listening to you.
Yeah.
You might be here,
Yeah.
but you're not here. You can relate?
Yeah.
I've been in this business for so long. I have to move, I guess. Okay? They might be here, they might be staring blankly at you, looking at you, smiling at you, yeah. But here is not here. Here is elsewhere, which is more interesting, more inviting. And being here is just because I have to be here. I've paid for the conference. This is available, therefore I'll just get myself physically here. But I do not want that from my participants. I want them to bring back something useful for them to, not just to implement in the classroom, but start thinking. The moment I'm able to get you thinking, I've done something good already. Because you're thinking for your learners. You're not thinking for yourself. You're a teacher. You get where you are already. You don't need to go far anymore. But your learners need you. So if you fail on your learners, you fail you. Right? Yeah? So in all my training as well, I made that a point to my participants. You're not here just because of you. You are here, yeah, for professional development. You don't see what is the debate like. What are people talking about now? But by the end of the day, why you are actually here is because of your learners.
Yeah.
You want to make a change for your learners. So coming back to global connectivity, when you engage your instruction with technology, you allow your students to go beyond what the classroom has to offer. You get them to go beyond what your country, for example, is able to offer. You get to see how others learn the language. You get to see how other communities is able to learn the language. And that's when we start learning about other communities and bring it back into our classroom. Okay? Preparation for future careers. Look back at our line of profession right now. They are moving, isn't it? It's no longer confined to the traditional role. We are going forward. We need some kind of technological skill, digital skills in our everyday life. So having technology integrated in your classroom will allow that. Okay? And finally, closing the digital divide. Now, when I first reached here in Kathmandu, as I was in the air, I could see small communities right up the mountain.
Teaching learners time and again say,
Okay.
trainings are also organized, but in the grassroots level, to translate, materialize, so maybe the more budget, more resources, willingness in part of teachers, awareness in parts of students, so many things, including digital distraction. So mainly we relate to that technology with the digital distraction, gaming, social media, TikTok, so many things we discuss. But actually how we can use such tools to empower our teachers and learners, this is not well discussed.
Okay, so the how is not discussed.
And not practiced. Well
Not
discussed.
practiced.
In a sense, we can say well discussed because we attend conference, learn, but not transfer to our classes.
All right. Puzzle is actually a tool that is easy and powerful. All right. It increases student autonomy because when you come up with activities using Edpuzzle, what it does is students are supposed to do it on their own. And you engage learning. You get students to be engaged with the activities. Now, Edpuzzle is a tool whereby you need to upload videos from YouTube It can also be your own videos. For example, if you're in the university or tertiary level, you can record yourself lecturing, and a way of testing whether they understand what you're saying, you trim the video to parts that you want to highlight. And in that part, you can embed questions, you can embed notes, and you can also put in links for further elaboration or further exploration. Okay? So that is what Edpuzzle is able to do. Now I find Edpuzzle a bit more interesting because you don't only look at students' response in terms of typing yes or no or printed response. You can also get audio response, whereby students are able to respond orally. And that is where you track whether they are able to pronounce certain words correctly, whether they are able to string a good sentence, okay? And that will bring you to how you can progress in your teaching. Okay, Edpuzzle also, as I mentioned earlier, increases student engagement and also save classroom time. Now, another reason why Edpuzzle was suggested, okay, is actually because you can use Edpuzzle as a flipped learning method. Are you familiar with flipped learning? You know flipped learning?
Yes.
Alright, so that means before you actually get into the teaching itself, you only have 20 minutes of teaching, right? Okay, you can save on the input by giving them a video to watch first. Alright, so when they come into class, they are ready for any kind of a response required from your students. Okay, so these are some of the features. Blur there. Basically, as what I mentioned earlier, you can customize your video, you can have interactive element, interactive meaning students have to respond to activities that is in the task or in the video, and you can see whether they have understood what you have prepared for them. Yeah? Most importantly, what I would like to highlight here is formative assessment and feedback. Now, when you teach, you need to see whether your students have understood what you teach, correct? How would you normally do so? How would you normally test your students whether they understood what you have done or what have you taught in the classroom?
Comprehension check.
Comprehension, that's
Check.
very common. Does it always have to be in a form of a comprehension?
No.
Does it have to always be in a form of comprehension? No. Alright? Can it be just orally? Can? Yes. Now when it's orally, you might not be able to have every single one, right? But Edpuzzle will help you do that. That means when every single student is responding, you have a record of how the person has progressed. Okay? So a little bit about my study, the one I've done. What NELTA has done is we provide training to groups of teachers and pre-service teachers across the nation, and we have trained 5 groups, all right? And in these 5 groups, we have reached 212 experienced to pre-service teachers nationwide, okay? And what we have analyzed is, we looked at how their response is when we have exposed them to Edpuzzle, and what is their take on that in using Edpuzzle in the classroom. Alright? Now I find this very important because if the teachers does not have a buy-in for the tool, it doesn't work. The teachers must first have the confidence about the tool, then only they will use it in the classroom. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Yeah? So the teachers must say, oh, it's good, I see some potential to it, then only you will see its application in the classroom itself. So what I have discovered is, they find the tool to be fostering a more participatory and dynamic classroom environment. That means more students are able to be engaged when they use this tool. Okay? Apart from that, they find that this tool is very interesting, engaging, and also interactive. Why is it interactive? Because the students have to respond. It's not just teacher. Teacher provide tasks, students respond. And they get immediate feedback. Immediate feedback is given. Okay? The third one is formative assessment. Just to give you a little background, in Malaysia, we are now moving towards formative assessment. We do have standard-based, but it's only at the end when we are at the age of 17. But from preschool right up to 17, the assessment that we carry out is formative assessment, classroom-based assessment. So teachers need to continuously assess their students to see where they are. We have set targets for each academic year. And in order to know whether they have reached the set objective, we need to conduct formative assessment or classroom assessment. So they find that Edpuzzle provides that opportunity, provides that tool. Okay? And finally, to enhance comprehension. Somebody asked me, mentioned just now, you want to see whether, in order to gauge their proficiency or their progress, you give them comprehension questions, correct? You can still do that with Edpuzzle. That means, for example, you give them a video about a story, but you don't give the whole story. Just give 2 minutes of the story, and you ask 2 questions. Just to start off whether they understood the first part of the questions. Now, Edpuzzle is able to segment it. You don't have to show the whole video all together. You can segment it and make it as a whole lesson or a set of lessons, a continuous one. However, there are challenges. Number one is technical proficiency. Remember I mentioned just now about being able to use technology well. Now these teachers also highlighted that they might be a bit, they need to struggle a little bit with the features available. They need to learn up the skills needed to operate the tool. But it's a very simple tool. If you use the basic ones, you'll be able to. If you want to try out, you just go to Edpuzzle. There are free features to it. Just use the free features. They are very good. And the last one is time constraint. In any kind of lesson, you need to prepare, right? Do you prepare lesson plans? So teachers prepare lesson plans, and they find that it's a little bit time consuming. That also in some remote areas, whereby accessibility to internet is very challenging, is a struggle. Yeah? And finally, we need to also highlight that Edpuzzle can be a transformative potential tool for teaching and learning. It's not that we know and okay, yeah, I know, but we need to try it out in order to know the benefits. Yeah? So finally, a very significant takeaways from this tool that we have done with the teachers. We realized that engagement is important. In any teaching and learning context, you need to get your students engaged. 2, once they're engaged, you need to know their progress. So assessment and feedback is equally important. What we need to do as a teacher as well, we need to vary our approaches, correct? We cannot stick to one type of approach to our learners. We have varied learners in our classroom. So what applies to one may not apply to the other. All right? And finally, this can be also a platform for innovation. Okay? So embrace the tools. That comes back to my title. Embrace the tool. Embrace means welcome them. Try them out. There are a lot of them available in the platform, in the net. You just need to try and error. All right? And see which one works well within your classroom context. With that, I end my presentation today. Thank you. This group of training of these teachers, there are three things that we need to look at. And this is something that we will propose to our policymakers. When it comes to tools, as you mentioned, Sam, you need a change in policy. Now our policy also have the digital education policy, whereby all teachers are supposed to integrate technology in their classroom. We provide them with the necessary means to use technology within the classroom. However, comprehensive training and support is equally needed and desperately needed as well. Okay? Equitable resources and accessibility, I understand the context some of your schools are having, because we don't have that also in some remote areas, whereby accessibility to internet is very challenging, is a struggle. Yeah? And finally, we need to also highlight that Edpuzzle can be a transformative potential tools for teaching and learning. It's not that we know and okay, yeah, I know, but we need to try it out in order to know the benefits. Yeah? So finally, a very significant takeaways from this tool that we have done with the teachers. We realize that engagement is important. In any teaching and learning context, you need to get your students engaged. Two, once they're engaged, you need to know their progress. So assessment and feedback is equally important. What we need to do as a teacher as well, we need to vary our approaches. Correct? We cannot stick to one type of approach to our learners. We have varied learners in our classroom. So what applies to one may not apply to the other. Alright? And finally, this can be also a platform for innovation. Okay? So embrace the tool. That comes back to my title. Embrace the tool. Embrace means welcome them. Try them out. There are a lot of them available in the platform, in the net. You just need to try and error. Alright? And see which one works well within your classroom context. With that, I end my presentation today.